Good morning and welcome to a very special hour of 3+U. I'm excited to bring this hour to you today. It's something I felt would be beneficial to talk about for a long time, actually. Like many of you, I'm watching and learning as my mom gets older. She's 94 now, and my brothers and I find ourselves talking a lot about how we can best help her navigate these next years to optimize her physical and mental health as independently as possible while being aware that life is going to change. It's not always easy to figure out for us or for her. So just like we joke about wishing that parenting came with a manual, I think the same is true for how we age. You don't know what it's going to be like until you're there. But this morning, we hope to help you prepare a little bit. We're calling this show Aging Well. That's the goal, after all, isn't it? To age well. So whether you are the adult child watching this morning or a senior yourself with some concerns of what might be happening in your life, this hour is for you. We have assembled a panel of experts who will guide us through topics ranging from nutrition and general health to estate concerns and memory care. We're also happy to have a small studio audience with us as well. They're going to be able to ask questions to the panel too as we go along. So let's get started by introducing you to the panel. Many of them are going to be familiar to you if you watch 3+U on a regular basis. Nancy Cogar is an elder law attorney in Chattanooga focusing on estate planning, tax preparation, and all things related to aging. Beth Janney is the corporate director of memory care for Pointe Assisted Living and Memory Care. Ed Jones is the owner of Nutrition World in East Brainerd, and Dr. Shayla Toombs-Withers provides concierge medicine at her family practice, Essence of Health Wellness Clinic. So good to have all four of you here.
Thank you.
Thank you for being a part of this.
Thank you.
I want to start kind of with some numbers, if you will, to kind of speak, I think, to the relevance of the conversation today. And I found the number, Nancy, on your website. When I shared it with Beth, she added to it. The number was that I think it's by 2035, the majority of Americans are going to be 65 and older. Does that sound right?
There'll be more people over 65 than any other age group.
Wow.
So, that is significant, and you added to it, Beth, to say that that number even can be broken down more specifically.
I did, because I wanted to thank you so much for focusing on this topic, because it impacts so many people. In the state of Tennessee currently, there are 1.6 million people that are over the age of 60, and 129,000 people who have been diagnosed with dementia. That number is probably higher because that means it's just the people who have been diagnosed, and not everybody has gone forward to be diagnosed. And if you think about it, whether you have dementia or not, but if you have a person who is an older adult who requires care and you assign one caregiver for those with dementia, that's 260,000 people in our state.
So that's a lot of people watching today.
That is affected by
absolutely.
aging and a dementia diagnosis.
And I think, just to give one more number that you shared with me, I believe it was 1 in 8, if you continue to break that down even more.
And by 2030, 1 in 8 will be diagnosed with dementia.
Okay, so Dr. Withers, let me throw this one to you, because, you know, no one thinks that children are mini adults, right? They require a pediatrician.
Exactly.
So as we age, is it important to have a doctor who understands how we are going to change as we age?
Right, yeah, it certainly is. And you know, there is a specialty, it's called geriatrics, which is a specialty that is just meant for aging individuals. However, you know, I always encourage folks to make sure they have a healthy ongoing relationship with their primary care doctor, because a lot of the key things that occur when we age can actually be prevented as well. And you don't have to, you know, start when you're 20 or 30, even 50, 60, 70 even. You know, there's still things that you can do to make sure that you're aging well, you know, as what we were talking about.
I know that you just made the man sitting next to you very happy when you used the word prevention. Ed is a regular here on the show, and that's kind of been your life's mission, isn't it, Ed? You almost are trying to find that fountain of youth.
It certainly has. I use the term graceful aging, and I've been able and blessed to be able to watch over my 46-year career and being almost be 67 this year, the ravages of improper aging. And there is, and as the doctor said, we need a good primary care physician to manage the ups and downs, but we need someone like her who looks deeper into what can we do to make decisions that help slow that aging. I'm a big fan of a physician named Dr. Peter Attia, who wrote a book called Outlive, and he puts together a plan of what he calls a centenarian decathlon. If you think that you're going to be strong at 70 by not starting at 50, you are living in a fantasy land. You cannot wait till the machine breaks down in order to rebuild it. Any time of age would be great, but like she said, 50 is when we really need to get serious. And what is serious? Serious is creating a plan of action. It's not just saying, I'm going to eat more broccoli, or I'm going to the gym twice a week. It is a plan, like you're flying an airplane and you have to file a flight plan. And with that does require discipline. Discipline is one of the bigger breakdowns that prevent people from being able to stick to the plan. So that's something we have to be aware that we have to acknowledge that we're weak with discipline, so let's get stronger.
Are any of you familiar with it was a Netflix series called The Blue Zones? Do you know
I've
it?
seen them.
For anybody watching who might not know, it was a journey really at six different spots around the globe where they had this high number of centenarians, and they've kind of found the common thread that went through. And so when you mentioned the word plan, Ed, it took me to connection, because I remember that being one of them, that people as they age stay connected to a community. Would you find that to be true? Beth, I'll throw it to you.
Absolutely. It is essential for brain health to challenge our brain. And I know that there are so many avenues on that we can play games on our phone and do these things for memory, and those things are good, but it is even better to have socialization. Think about how much your brain works when you interact with other people. You know, your senses are taking in all sorts of things, what they look like, what their tone of voice is, what their posture is, what they're saying, and all of that is engaging your brain. And it is very, very helpful. And we saw across the board during that horrible time of COVID, when people were isolated from one another, and how their cognitive ability plummeted, particularly in the older population.
So Nancy, I mean, obviously as we're talking, a lot of the conversation today is going to be more on the medical, physical side than the legal side, and yet every time you were here, on the show with me, so much of what you talk about is that connecting with people, because you're often talking not just to your individual client, but to their family.
Absolutely, because you can have the same track basically up to where you're 50, and then things start to hurt, break down. You're not moving as fast. You start to notice those things, but it's the whole family has to be involved in that kind of planning before a problem happens. And I hate to say it, but there are about 70% of people out there that have absolutely no estate plan in place. And that is really troubling to me. That means if something does happen and they become incapacitated, they have no one appointed with documents that are valid under the state law to help them, to step in, to take care of them, to make decisions for them if they need to. So this really is a crisis, and it's not only just the healthcare part of it, but it's managing what happens to you when you cannot help yourself.
So let me give people watching this morning a little bit of a rubric, if you will, of how the hour is intended to flow, because sometimes the conversation might apply to you, sometimes it might not. But here are kind of the points we're going to hit. When we come back, we're going to talk a lot more about dementia and how to prevent it, how to address it, how to talk to your doctor about it, that type of thing. We're going to talk about sleep. We're going to talk the legal side of things. We're going to talk nutrition. So it's going to apply to everybody watching, I'm sure. More to come on aging well when we come back.